Hey guys, how are you? Okay, so I was talking for 5 minutes when I had my whole system locked. So that was awesome. So, anyway, my name is Raven Woods, and I am the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks, the IEP. I help parents gain the knowledge and confidence to truly become the CEO of their IEP meeting. So, with that said, if you are new to this page or you are a newbie, period, post a one below. Tell me who you are. Tell everybody who you are. Tell us about your kids. And if you are oldie but goodie, make sure you post a two below and just say hi. Okay. So today we're actually going to talk about, well, I had other things on my mind, but I got a message from Nicole and she asked me a couple things. Oh, Rocco, no, hold on. Okay. I have a puppy and he's getting things. Okay. So with that said, no, sir. Okay. So with that said, she messaged me and she said, one of the questions that she had was maybe we can talk about arbitrary limits the school says to parents. For example, your child has only one service provider, so you can only have two goals. What? Then she asks me to talk about requirements when the school wants to cut services or service hours that parents don't agree with. Next, what if the school does both, cuts services and hours, and sends the IEP to the parent without any parent input, without an IEP, and without a PWN? Say what? Okay, so we're going to talk about the first one first. All right, so I didn't prepare for this at all, you guys. Okay, this is just on the whim. All right, so basically, she's asking that if your child only has one service, okay, can the service provider say, okay, your child only has one service, we can only give you two goals? Well, that's not true. There's no cap on the amount of goals that your child can have. Now, mind you, they better be smart, okay? And if they're not, we need to talk about that. But you need to understand that goals are based off your child's disability. They're not based off a service that's provided to your child. Okay. So certain children have different types of disabilities. So, for example, if a child has high functioning autism or just ADHD, that does not mean that just because they have one service that they have one goal or two goals. Okay, goals are based off their impact of disability and it's based off of how they learn, what is going to help them progress. It doesn't matter if they have one need and a service of need or 20. It doesn't matter. Okay, those goals are based off that unique child, individual child. Okay, it's not based off of, oh, you only have one service, so we can only provide you with one or two goals. Okay. So the way to argue that would be just that services are services based off need, that the child needs based off impact of disability. Everything always goes back to impact of disability. Okay. And you don't give up that fight. Okay. You explain to them, you do the PPPN. Okay. You plan, prepare, present, persuade, and negotiate. Okay. And so if you plan correctly, you will be able to prepare yourself in the right way, in the right manner, and create your system, okay, that you're able to persuade them that what is needed and appropriate is a must based off your child's impact of disability, or without it, what's going to happen. And you, the parent, know best of what that outcome is going to be. So you have to be verbal. You have to speak your mind. You cannot allow the school system, and I got a story for you guys tonight. Because remember, I went live, what was it, Friday? I got an update for you. But basically, oh, I went on my group, so I'll just announce it here. But you can't allow the school system to intimidate you, to state different lies that they come up with. I just actually wrote about this, the 20 top lies that schools tell you. And you have to focus on what is needed and appropriate for your child. So if you're arguing so to speak, and persuading them in the right way, you're going to win. Again, the IEP is not a one size fits all. You don't just go in and you're done. Okay. It does not work that way. So if you don't have patience, you're going to learn them, because sometimes when you're in the middle of an IEP and it's not going right, sometimes, and things, goals aren't working out, things aren't moving forward, you actually have to go back to the beginning, what I call the baseline, or you can call it going back to the basics. Okay. Where you actually may have to get your child evaluated again or reevaluated again to then start the process over. And there is a unique system, yes, that I created that walks you through that process. Okay. If you walk through it in the right way versus how I did it in the beginning, for 6.5 years, I screwed up and had to go through trial and error, trial and error. And as you know, that's why I do what I do. I don't want you wasting that time. Your kids deserve better, but I didn't know any better. So I did it, eventually, 6.5 years later. So don't waste that time. But just know that they can't win if their argument is dead wrong. They're not allowed to say and put a cap on the amount of goals that your child has. Why? Because the school system, per idea, is not allowed to have what's called low expectations of your child. They have to have the same expectations for your child than they do children who have no disability at all. And the problem that is happening is many cities, states, school systems, counties, etc., have, and staff members have low expectations of our children, and then try to convince us that our expectations are too high, and then try to say that, sorry, my puppies. um, so then they try to say that since our expectations are too high, we need to bring them down a little bit. Why? Because they're lazy and they don't want to push our children. It happens all the time. Teachers don't want to push our children to the maximum extent possible, which is per idea. It's in idea. It is part of the law. The school systems and teachers have to push our children to learn and grow to the maximum extent possible and not have low expectations of them, or lower expectations of them than they would have for a child with no disability at all. Okay. So hopefully that answers that question. The main thing you have to understand, and I understand that sometimes I don't get into all the intricacies of how you go about arguing this. I give you the argument, but I don't give you the whole process because I would be on here forever. Okay. So message me if you have any questions, but just know that if you know the law, and don't go preach the law, don't do that. But if you know the law and can go about it, or learn how to go about it in the proper way, then your argument is substantial and they can't do anything about that. So sometimes, okay, a lot of times, we have to actually teach them a thing or two. Okay. But you want to do it in a nice way. But that doesn't mean kiss their butt. It doesn't mean to succumb to their bullshit, so to speak. It just means that you don't want to deliver a message in a way that's automatically going to put them on the defensive. Okay. Where they're like, no, and then you're fighting more. You want to create a system where you can approach them and persuade in the right way, to where they may not like you and you may not like them. And I tell you straight up, I say that in my IEP meetings. Okay. I say it all the time. I'll go in there and say, look, don't take anything I say personally. It's not about you. It's about my child. So anything that I say is about my child. So if you take offense to it, that's on you. However, this is about my child. I say that all the time. And I know that I am a very forward person, but I really don't care what they think of me. I don't. I'm not there to be their friend, and you shouldn't be either. Okay? Stop trying to keep the peace. All right? You want to keep the peace, but you don't want to keep the peace, if that makes sense. All right? You want to keep the peace as in you don't want to cause problems that don't have to be had or aren't necessary, or you don't want to fight for something that there may be three other things that are more important. Does that make sense? So pick your battles, but always put your child first. Okay? Put your child first. You're not there to be your friend. Okay? So you got to make a choice. You do. Because I've talked to parents where they're like, oh, that's not my personality. I don't know how to do that. And I prepare for the IEP. I got my binder together. I got my folder, the file folder and everything. And then you kind of get stuck when you get there, or you lose that train of thought or how you were going to go about things. And you're just kind of in that stuck phase. Even though you still talk and you're still part of it, you're kind of stuck, and then you leave and things didn't get done the way you thought they would. Okay? So that's why I'm big on the bullet point. That's why I'm big on the planning phase. Okay? The planning phase takes the longest time. Going into that meeting, becoming the CEO and getting it done, that's the easy part if you plan correctly. Okay. There is a system that is based off that. Okay. Part of it is what I call the hunt and gather. Okay. And many of you know the surprise I have coming. Okay. Many of you may not, but I promise you, you're going to have my system. Okay. It is successful. I have many people to tell you that it's successful. And I don't brag about it because it's successful. I brag about it because it's freaking rocking. And the reason it's rocking is because it gets parents where they need to be to get their kids what's needed and deserved. And that's why it's awesome. That's why I brag about it, because it's that good that parents are able to actually get their kids what they need. And that's all that matters. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about them. And if you can do and go through the process to get it done, you're golden. Okay. So let's move on. All right. So her next question was, when the school wants to cut services or service hours and parents don't agree, that's question one. Question two is, what if the school does both, cut services and hours? And then she adds that they don't provide, they don't allow parent input, and they don't provide the PWN. So without parent input and without an IEP or PWN. So I'm guessing they didn't give her IEP. So if this ever happens to you, I hope you make a state complaint. All right, I need to charge my computer. All right, so what I want you to understand is, number one, understand that school systems can and will cut services. Okay? Are you upset? Are you sad? Does it mean it's the end of the world? No. Okay? So, what that means is that they chose to do something without discussing it with you. Okay? But the thing is once a school system says, okay, we're cutting services, they have to, by law, provide what's called a PWN, a prior written notice. Okay, I actually teach what's called the 7 elements of the prior written notice. Okay, it goes into grave detail. What I'm just going to tell you is the prior written notice is used as a tool for you to say, okay, the school system is agreeing or refusing a service, accommodation, etc. Okay? And that they are then providing you with, no, we're not going to do this. They refuse it. Okay? And this is why. They have to do that. So a prior written notice must include, if they refuse something or get rid of something, we're getting rid of this, we refuse it, and this is why. They have to have a solid concrete reason. All right. That's number one. If they agree, they put they agree. Usually in the prior written notice. Here, actually, I have one right here. Let me pull it up. So in the prior written notice, they have multiple different things, but the main thing is what they agree with and what they disagree with. Okay, so remember on my group, you guys, remember I told you, I'm going through some crap with the state, just not her IEP, but just in reference to a reading issue. Look at all this. I have it all together. But let me show you the prior written notice so that I think I have it in here so that you can have an idea or a visual. Here it is. All right. So the prior written notice, all right, is a paper. All right. And it basically has what actions are proposed and refused by the division. All right. And then they go into detail 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And your child's name and everything else is on it. And you basically, can go through it. All right. So make sure that you understand what is in the prior written notice. Make sure that you understand all the information in it. Now, this one that I just held up, it was actually falsification of information. It was incorrect. It was not what was discussed. And I had to then put an email in saying, I refuse this prior written notice based off the fact that the information in it was false. Okay, that's not what we discussed. That's not what was said. And it's incorrect. Okay, so you're basically stating that there's something that's not okay here. All right, and that's fine to say. You're refusing it. So then the school system then has to come back to you and say, well, this is why we did this. This is why we said this, etc. They have to own up to what you said, and they have to respond back to you in reference to why they proposed or refused things, and you ask questions because you want to first ask questions. I'm big on that hunt and gather, right? So hunting is not just going into your classroom, observing, and that sort of thing. The biggest part of it is asking so many questions, you're going to make yourself stir crazy. Okay. But the more questions you ask, the more information you gain, and the more knowledge you have to then put into place, create your case, and then go do your PPPN. Okay. So you need to make sure that you fully understand what the prior written notice is and what it is for. Okay. It's only given certain times when there's a proposed, a refused, etc. Okay. It's not just given any time. So if it's given to you, something was proposed or refused, okay, or taken away. All right. And they have to provide why. Then you, the parent, get to choose. What do you want to do about it? All right. First, ask questions. Make sure that what's in that prior written notice is correct or not. And you need to make sure that everything is accurate. And if it is not, you need to make sure you immediately address that because they then have to provide their comments and change it if that is the case. And if you recorded your IEP meeting, then they're definitely going to change it because you have it on recording. So that's a way for you to really figure out uh, the accuracy of what is put into a prior written notice, okay? Because you're going to listen to it back. And if you do what I tell you, it's listen to that IEP meeting on recording back by minute, okay? I have my clients record, and then I've taught them how to literally take certain notes by minute, okay? And why that's important, okay? Because a lot of what is within that minute, you yourself actually were on such high alert that you forgot. You forgot to process that information. So you leave the IEP meeting, and sometimes our heads are like a cloud, because so much came in, and a lot of times little goes out. So even though a lot needs to go out. And so we leave the meeting kind of cloudy, foggy feeling because so much just happened. We're still trying to process it all. Okay. So know that services can be taken. They can, but that's not an end all be all. Okay. So a prior written notice should be given. If it is not, then they're in violation of IDEA. Okay. So then they're not providing FAPE. They're not providing a free and appropriate education because they're violating the law and what is in IDEA. And violating the law is not providing FAPE, okay, in certain areas, okay? And so it's important to understand where they're going wrong and what's going on, what's transpired that we need to now address, okay? So immediately call an IEP meeting, request why the service is proposed to be taken away. You want to address this before it's actually taken, but there is no time limit in which the school system has to put that into action. All right, so let me explain this. All right. So I've said this before. Many school systems, if you deny an IEP that was written up, all right, because this is one of the questions here that she wanted to know that if an IEP is not even given. So if a school system provides an IEP, like she's saying, and they just give you an IEP and you didn't have any input, well, number one, that's a violation of IDEA as well because you are just as much a part of the team as they are. And legally speaking, they have to include you. They never, and you should never request what's called a draft IEP before the meeting. Do not ever do that because number one, if the school system automatically does it, that's them saying to you, hey, we don't care what you think. We're just going to go ahead and make our decisions on our own. We're going to provide you with a draft and you can just sign it. Have a nice day. No, it doesn't work like that. You go into the meeting for a reason. The whole purpose of the meeting is to come to a agreement on what's needed and appropriate for your child. So if you're provided a draft IEP before the IEP meeting even took place, that's not appropriate. And that's them taking the reins and saying, we're making the decisions. You don't matter. That's what that's saying. Okay. It's kind of like actions speak louder than words. So understand that that can't happen. You have to put a stop to the things that they're doing wrong. If you allow them to continue that, then that's on you. So you need to stop allowing the school system to abuse the law and what is regulation because you're allowing it and not saying anything. So speak up, own it, own the fact that you know what's right and wrong and what's appropriate and what's not. And if you don't, ask. You got this group now, you got this page now, you have the group if you are part of our group, and just ask. Okay, we'll share with you. But don't go into an IEP meeting anymore and not speak up. Okay? You like I've said this many times. If you're a passive person, you don't like conflict and that's just not your personality, that is fine, okay? But in the IEP meeting, change. Be a totally different person. You just got to learn that. Okay? It's like becoming an actress, okay? Or an actor because you cannot be quiet and avoid conflict if you want to get things done. And here's the thing about conflict anyway. You have to have conflict to have resolution. So many people are afraid of conflict, but if you don't have it, you're not going to solve anything. We're not the same. We're different people. There's going to be conflict, meaning disagreement, okay? Issues, etc. We're not going to agree. That's normal. But you got to speak up. You got to call them out when they're wrong. And if you got to teach them a thing or two, then do that too. Because they're not allowed to do certain things that they do, many things that they do. You have to be the one to step up, call them out on it, and let them own it. Okay? People that own when they're wrong, I totally respect that. We all make mistakes. If you own it, we're good. But if you start making excuses, then we got a problem. Okay? So that's how I am. Okay? You guys may be different. But I feel like if somebody owns it and takes responsibility, then that's forgivable. I mean, everything's forgivable in my mind, most things, but it's forgivable and you respect that person because they owned what they did, you know? Where if you don't own it and you start making excuses, then that just ticks you off even more, right? So, but that doesn't mean if they are, say, for example, non compliant, you can also, they don't even just have to be non compliant to make a complaint. So if they don't provide a PWN, you can make a complaint for that, you know? And I was just going through this in a video I was making today where you still want to complain. You want to still make a state complaint because if you let them keep getting away with things, this is what I used to do. All right. So I used to be like, oh, no big deal. It's okay. You know, and I didn't want to kind of cause waves and stuff like that in the beginning. And I just kind of let things go. And they always had excuses and stuff. And I wasn't really sure about things. And I hadn't ever made a state complaint yet. And what happened. You know, I was used, abused, and it got to the point where there was trust issues, and I don't believe people who are full of you know what, and it just became a huge problem. And so I've learned the hard way to make them own it from the get go. I don't care if you went to an IEP meeting and it went awesome. Awesome. I had a great IEP. It was amazing. Couldn't ask for anything better. Well, that is awesome. But what you have to understand is not every IEP is the same, and not every IEP has the same team members. Things change. You got a career out of this. They're just there maybe that year. So you're going to have change in people, and you're going to have change as in what you request, what the goals are, and things are going to change up. So you're not always going to have perfection, which you probably don't ever have, but you're going to leave IEP meetings happy, and you're going to leave IEP meetings super pissed, okay? And that's just the way of the game. All right. So what I'm saying is don't let your guard down just because something went good. Don't. Because that's when you're going to get stuck. That's when something's going to happen. Okay. And that's when a lot of us honestly get lazy. Okay. When something went good, then we're like, ah, I can relax. Cool. This is awesome. You know, and we kind of get lazy in our follow up and our looking for progress reports and all that kind of stuff. So don't do that. Okay. Take it for what it was. Awesome. It went great, but keep going in your process. Keep requesting progress reports at minimum quarterly. Keep going to quarterly IEP meetings. Break down those SMART yearly goals into quarterly goals and that sort of thing. Okay. It creates a really good system and a really good play so that you can continue moving forward and you're staying on top of things. You're not going a year without knowing what's going on. Can't tell you how many of you have said they're not contacting me. I'm not getting progress reports. I'm not getting daily communication sheets. What the hell is going on? You know, and then if you find out later, if think about it, if you let it go for a year and the teachers aren't going to call you and they're going to pick up the phone and, hey, Miss Smith, I just wanted to call and let you know your child's failing. They really suck, you know, or hey, Miss Smith, I just wanted to call and let you know that your child is so bad and he really needs a one-on-one. So I just wanted to let you know that we're going to provide him a one-on-one. Doesn't happen like that. They're not going to call you. You got to stay on top of it. You got to be on top of things. You have to. All right. And I know I'm like hardcore with this. I get it. Okay. But I'm passionate about the fact that there's certain ways that you have to go about things to really have success in the long term, not a one and done, in the long term. Okay. The goal is to get your child to the point as to be the best they can possibly be, to have educational success, and to be a well productive adult. Okay, to the maximum extent possible. Okay, and that is not going to happen if the effort isn't put in when they're young. Okay, and if we don't fight for that, and we don't call people out, and we don't argue for what is right by law, then who's going to do it for you? Who? Okay, and that's why I want parents to advocate and become the CEO themselves, not rely on anyone or anybody to do it for them. Learn the process. Don't go and have somebody hold your hand. Okay? Sure, I'm here. There's other advocates. Hopefully, you get a good one. And hopefully, they know what they're doing. But you don't need to do that. Okay? You don't need me to go sit in a meeting with you, because I believe you can do it yourself. Okay? I'd rather guide you through the process and you go do it, because honestly, practice makes perfect. You're going to nail it sooner rather than later, I think, with a plan of action. So just know that. I'm not saying that I'm an advocate. That's what I do. And I'll go sit in your meeting. I do Zoom meetings too and talk with IEP teams. I do it all the time. But I'm more for parents who say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn how to do this, and I'm going to go do it myself, because you're the one who's the expert anyway. So if you learn the process of how to take action, create the plan. Okay, you got to have a plan. You got to have a guide first. Then you got to have a plan. Then you have to be able to put that plan into action and get it done. So if you have that system, then why do you need somebody to hold your hand? You don't. Okay. So hopefully I answered that question. All right. Of a PWN. A PWN is very important. Very, very, very important. Okay. So make sure you get your PWN. Make sure it's accurate. Make sure it is truthful, and make sure that it states not only what they refused, but what they approved, because there's your proof, right? And then make sure that what they didn't approve, there's a why. And don't BS me in the why. I want to know why. You better give me some solid reasons why. It better be good. You expect me to come to you with what's needed and appropriate and peer reviewed and scientifically based, and all the BS we have to go provide to them in persuading, in preparing, presenting, persuading, and negotiating. So they better come back to me with some solid evidence of why they denied my child something. Expect that. Have high expectations of them too. A lot of them think we're just big dummies, that we don't know anything. We don't know anything about the IEP, and we don't know anything about what's going on. They're the experts. They look, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them look at us like we're just dumb, you know? And I honestly, I was in the beginning, I was dumb. And again, my story starts with trial and error. That's why I say I'm in the trenches with you, because I went through hell, and trial and error. Y'all don't want to go through all that. I'm telling you, you don't. Okay. You don't want to even go through half of what I've been through. All right. And I'm sure you guys have been through a lot yourselves. So I'm with you there completely. So, and now, okay, so let me tell you my story. So let me make sure I answered her question. All right. To make sure. Okay. So I answered that, oh, if they cut services, that they have to provide the PWN. So once you, okay, so let me answer this. So if they cut services, hours, and they don't provide the PWN. Okay, so if they cut services and hours, they have to provide the PWN. The PWN has to have solid reason as to why they cut and denied and whatever the services. And then you have a choice. So you can request another IEP meeting to have a conversation and convince them why that needs to be put back in. I highly suggest you come back to the IEP meeting with an IEE, so that you have something in hand to prove that your child may need that service. Now, if they don't, great. Okay, who cares? But if it is something that you know your child needs and they're just pulling it, then you better get the evidence as to why they need it. Okay? That could be videotape on that you've done, it can be notes that you've taken, it can be whatever it is that you can show them and persuade them you're wrong and this is why. Okay? So you can't just say you're wrong. They're going to say, okay, well, what do you got to show for that? So you got to always have something to come back to. you know you have to say you're wrong and this is why. ABC XYZ. You know what I mean? So you have to be on your toes as far as that's concerned. Okay. And if you're asking, I always go back to this, and I'm going to be providing this to you very soon. If you go back to the right questions, all right, when you guys see the amount of questions, you're going to have to ask yourself, if you go with my system, you're going to pass out. Okay. Because until you ask those questions, you're not going to be able to fight the way you could be fighting. All right. So, you know how when you guys join my group, this is the page. So, if you haven't joined my group, come on over. It's an amazing group. But, okay. So, when you guys join my group, I don't have this person's name. Okay. All right. So, I'll be able to show this to you. So, when you join my group, can you see? Let me see. I don't know. Okay. Hold on. Let me turn this a little bit. Can you see? Hold on. Trying to okay, there we go. What happened? All right, you can kind of see now. Oh, there we go. All right, so you see how there's questions, all right, that has to be answered. All right, and this parent, okay, so here's my questions. So my first question is, how can I best help you with your child's educational journey? All right, that's my first question that I ask when you join my group. The second question I ask is, what is the number one thing you want to learn and are looking for in this group? All right. And then the third question I ask is, what is your number one challenge right now, or your most pressing question? Those are good questions, right? All right. So I get this a lot. So I'm going to read this. All right. So this parent said, how can I best help you in your journey? When I asked that, she said, I want to learn to push for his needs when the school denies him access to them. All right. And then her second answer was in reference to the number one thing you want to learn: insight to better goals, strategies, and services. She said, to the number one challenge right now, my biggest challenge is knowing that the school is just worried about my son's progress and safety as I am. So, meaning they're not as worried as she is. I feel the only I feel they only do the minimum and focus on testing rather than things they will need in real life. So I get these are where this is why I ask these questions, because I'm able to gain insight as to where you are. Okay. And where's the problem? Okay. Then I take the mass and I say, okay, I'm seeing a lot of this. And so that's why I ask those specific questions, because I personally want to know where you are struggling. Because if I know where you're struggling, I'm able to talk about it. I'm able to create things that will help with that. And that's what I do. I love creating stuff. I was a teacher. And so I love creating things that's going to help somebody and that's going to get them somewhere. You know what I mean? So if you haven't grabbed my free checklist, would y'all get that? I think everybody on the page and everybody on the group, if you guys haven't grabbed my checklist, it's free. I could show you emails that I've gotten from people saying, this one lady said, I've never gotten anything free that has actually helped me take action. That's what I like to hear. Okay. If I'm going to give something out for free, why would I give you something that you're not able to utilize, or that's going to give you all of zero knowledge? Why would I do that? That's stupid. Why waste my time? Why waste yours? Right? So if I'm going to give something away for free, which we all know nothing in this world is really free, but if I'm going to give something away for free, I want it to create some sort of change, give some sort of insight to where your head needs to be. Okay? So just know that about me. All right. So I did answer all her questions. So hopefully, Nicole, I answered your questions. Message below if you guys have any more questions. And I see you guys have commented. So I'm going to get to you guys. Um, but I want to tell you about something because I like telling you my stories so you know that my life's not perfect either. And so I went on my group, I think it was Friday night, and I rant and raved. Okay. And you guys let me. So it was awesome. But here is where I'm fighting. So when I say my daughter's IEP rocks, I'm not kidding. It really does. Okay. There's nothing really other than goals that need changed. But in my IEP in August. So, like I've told you guys, I have IEPs August, December, and April. And I love that because August is right before school starts, December is right before break, and April is right before ESY. Smart, right? All right. So, in August, I found out that the reading specialist that my daughter had was I kept emailing and saying I'm not getting progress reports. I'm not getting the weekly emails because service providers are supposed to provide me weekly emails, and that's in my IEP. And this had gone on for quite some time, and I was getting ready to honestly flip some shit. Okay, and so finally we have this IEP meeting, and mind you, I have been doing this now 13 years, and this reading specialist takes the cake. All right. So the director of special education, special services, whatever it's called in your area, actually said to this reading specialist that she actually was not even qualified on the 7 elements that school systems hire. Okay. So you have to have knowledge in your area of expertise. So if it's special education, reading, music, math, etc. So there's 7 elements in which school systems hire. They have to have certain things, okay? And so she failed all of them. She not only provided what's called lack of appropriate instruction. She also, and I made these state complaints. That was that huge file that I showed you guys. She failed to comply and implement goals in regards to reading. So when you make state complaints, you have to make sure that what you're saying is accurate in that way. Okay, so lack of appropriate instruction, lack, she was not highly qualified and extensively trained based on the fact that she was incompetent in what she was doing and teaching, based off the fact that she couldn't even provide me with the proper goals and how Skylar was doing. I was floored, floored. And again, I've been doing this 13 years. And this reading specialist, of all the years I've been doing this, took the fucking cake. Excuse my language. I could not believe it. Okay. So, needless to say, since August, I have been fighting with the school system in regards to reading. All right. So, at first, I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to make the state complaints, but how are they going to rectify this? Okay. What are they going to do? Okay. And so I kept emailing, and I emailed and emailed and emailed to find out if they would just own it. I knew I was making state complaints, but I wanted to know if they were going to own it and rectify it. Okay. So not only did that that actual reading specialist got fired immediately, which again, in 13 years, I've never seen happen. Um, but then they had to find another reading specialist for her. And so it's taken time. We're at like what, 6 months now, right? And so I requested a specific reading program in Northern Virginia that is all over the US. It's US based, and they have an amazing reputation in regards to reading. So Skylar's day would be 4 hours of reading, and then she'd have to have all her services, and it would be a jumbled mess for 3 12 weeks. And it costs $28,000 per 12 weeks, and the school system would have to provide that. So of course they're fighting me. And so now we're at the point where they agreed, and then they send me what's called a settlement. Okay. I'm going to show you guys the settlement. I'm actually going to scan it. I got to mark it, but I'm going to scan it into the docs on my group. Don't ever, ever sign a settlement. And you should see this one. What they were trying to do is saying, hey, Raven, we'll give you this reading program that you want that will cost us $90,000, which, mind you, the school systems have to provide what's needed and appropriate for your child, no matter the cost. Okay. So they said, okay, Raven, we'll give you this service, but we're going to shut you up. So in that settlement, it actually said that I would forever not complain, that I would forever not take them to due process, that I would forever not go to mediation. It was insane. I told them where to go, and I would proceed in fighting for this reading program another way. All right. So because I didn't sign it, we're still in the process. That's why you got to learn patience, guys. I know I'm going to get it, but you got to learn patience. You got to go through, again, it's a horse and pony show. All right. So again, her IEP is good. So I know she's good, but I want her to really get to the point because she's getting ready to go into high school. I want her to really nail this reading thing. All right. And that's just important to me as a parent. So we all, as parents, have different things that are most important. And to me, it's reading and math. All right. So, and of course, she has her ABA. So now this is where it gets really screwed up. All right. So in all my meetings, as you know, I record everything. I will play for you sometime or another this recording. Okay. It's the director of special education literally naming all of the complaints that I made and admitting to it. She said, yes, there was lack of appropriate instruction. Yes, there was failure to comply with goals in regards to reading. Yes, there was an unqualified reading specialist. I mean, she went on and on. So what's happened is the school system knows now that I've got them. So now they're retaliating. It's awesome. Okay. So they're doing everything within their power. So then they respond to my 19 complaints. They respond with their book here. And so I went through it. And let me tell you something. Rocco, come on. So this is what happened is they lied. Okay. So now I'm creating this email when I get off with you guys. I'm creating this email to show the state, hey, do you want me to make another state complaint, or can I just provide this to you? So you got to ask them and they'll tell you. They'll say, yes, make another complaint, or they'll say, no, we'll take this. And she's got most of it on recording. So what I'm asking is, hey, this is why this is a lie. Hey, this is why this is a lie. So they actually provided a PWN that I now have an email that I got an email back then because it was false. It was not true. So I actually had the county send me another PWN that was accurate and removed the things that were false. But they turned into the state the one that was false, which isn't even the one in play. Yeah, that's what they did. So when I say you got to go through paperwork that looks like this, you do. You literally do. Meticulously. So you have to be able to go through it and understand what it means. Like, for example, this is a progress report. Okay. So like you need to be able to go through the progress reports and really, you probably can't see it all, but you have to be able to read it and understand what a bell curve is and understand how assessments are read and what the median is and what's the SD. And if you don't know how to read an assessment, you don't know how to read a bell curve, and you don't know how to figure out what the average is and be able to figure out where your child is, you got to learn that. Okay. And you have to make sure that everything that they provide, you know how to figure out how to go about it. So let me explain that. So everything that they had that they BS'd, okay, here's the other thing I have in recording is, so I said to her, I said, hey, can you go through my complaint with me? This is genius. All right. So I'm recording and I said, hey, can you go through my complaint with me? Because you said that I'm just trying to figure out because you have to reply anyway. And you said that you owned all of this. So I'm confused. I want you to explain to me what you're going to say to the state. So this is what she says to me. She says, I own it. I own it. Lack of appropriate instruction, I own it. Failure to provide goals in regards to reading, I own it. I have it all on tape. And then they provide a complete opposite in their argument. So the state has the recording, yet they say otherwise. She says otherwise in this paperwork. So it just shows the dishonesty. Another thing I want to tell you about is, and I found this out today, okay, and I have it on recording as well. Her ABA therapist was and owns the company that she goes to, okay, and then they have other BCBAs that work there. Well, one of the BCBAs was asked to provide the attorney who wrote the school's argument to my complaints to provide an exhibit, meaning a letter to say, hey, this is what happened. We provided a BCBA for Skylar and for them to, basic because I require a BCBA or a BCABA to do ABA therapy with Skylar. I don't allow an RBT. All right. I don't allow. Okay, I'll go get it. Okay, come here. So make sure that you have your own stipulations on things. Okay. Like, for example, if someone's going to do an evaluation on my daughter, they have to have at least 5 years experience. Okay. That's my stipulation. You can have something different. If somebody's going to teach my daughter, they have to have 3 to 5 years experience in that specialty in autism and behavior issues, okay, to be able to handle her. If not, then it's not going to work. So why put her in a situation that I know is not going to work? I've done this long enough to where I have certain things that I allow and I don't allow because of experience. Okay. So let me finish really quick. So what I found out today is that the exhibit that this BCBA was giving, so she actually talked to the attorney, gave her statement, and the attorney wrote the exhibit, all right, that was signed by the owner of the company. All right, it gets better. And guess what? It was completely inaccurate. And so I contacted the owner and said, hey, we've never had this problem before. Why would you provide an exhibit for the school system that's completely inaccurate? And do you know she emailed me with all the stuff that was inaccurate, which goes to show because the attorney filled it out and it was all wrong. It was completely shady. All right. So now we're in this predicament of the dishonesty of the school. And this is what happens. Okay. And you just have to be able to navigate it in the right way. If you have all your documentation, you are good. Okay. Don't be intimidated by the process. Don't own it and keep it moving. Okay. You got to own it and accept it for what it is. And if you're fighting for your kids, it's not going to always be easy. It's not going to always be a walk in the park. It's just not. And I've always said this to y'all. I always want to be transparent with you because I don't want you to think, oh, Raven's got it great. She's got this perfect IEP. Nothing's ever wrong. Wrong. You couldn't be any more wrong. Yeah, I got a system. Yeah, I know how to do the IEP process. I know how to teach it. I have a great IEP, but does that mean everything's perfect? Heck no. And I'm always going to have issues with the state. Look at this puppy. Oh my goodness. Look, Rocco. Look, look. Look, say hi. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. This is a 3-month-old puppy. Rotten. Rotten. Right? Rotten. All right. So let's end here. I will answer some questions really quick and then I'm going to get off. All right. Okay. Hi, Kylie. How are you? Waiting on you to get a hold of me. All right. Hi, Yvette. How are you? Welcome. 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 Hey, Tiffany. How are you? All right. Hey, Let. How are you? Welcome again. Um, Brandy, welcome. Don't forget to bring snacks and say thank you. That's right. She definitely heard me. That's right. Bring snacks and say thank you. Yeah, homemade. All right. Hi, Anitra. How are you? And Tiffany, welcome. And Brandy, welcome. You're the helicopter mom. That's okay. That's okay. I actually didn't let my two older kids, who are now 23 and 19, I didn't let them go to parties and stuff. And I was just that mom. I figured, they're going to get in trouble. Why let them go? When they turn 18, they can do whatever they want. And oh, I was the worst mom because every other mom was doing it. So don't worry about it. Guess what? They turned out great. And one's a teacher. She's got her master's working in Northern Virginia, and my son's in the Coast Guard. So they turned out okay. All right. So, Tiffany, I think I said hi to you. I want that kind of confidence, that kind of preparation will bring. Well, you'll get it. Okay. And if you guys have not signed up for the wait list, do it. Because and the other thing I'm going to tell you is you better open your emails. Open your emails. Okay. One's going out tomorrow and it's going to start going out starting Thursday quite a bit. So if you're not on the email list, you want to be. I guarantee it, you want to be. So grab my checklist, get on the wait list, and definitely open your emails, okay? And I promise, even if you just open your emails for the next 2, 3 weeks, whatever, and then don't ever open them again, I'm telling you, you don't want to miss this. I promise. I promise. Okay. And if I am not being honest with you, you can totally call me out on it. But right now, I'm telling you, you don't want to miss this. Okay? You don't. Okay? All right. So, hello, Martha. How are you? I haven't seen you in a while. I'm having an eligibility meeting on the 29th. Can I request to have any results prior to the meeting? Absolutely. At minimum, at the worst, 2 days beforehand. Okay. But technically, out of politeness, you can ask if they'll give it to you like a week to 10 days to give you time to read it. And one thing that I say that kind of puts them on the spot is I'll send an email and I'll say I'd really appreciate it if you would send me the evaluation 7 to 10 days in advance so that I can review it in full so that when I get to the IEP meeting and the eligibility meeting that I'm not reading it right there and wasting your time and mine. So it looks like you're being nice. What?
Good night.
Good night.
Who's talking to you?
I'm talking to everybody on Facebook on the group. Are you not wanting to go to bed? Are you going to go to bed? Yeah, it's a school night. You had off today, huh? It's different, huh? It was change. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's where we're at. Okay, so Eve, welcome. I don't think I have met you before, so welcome. I always ask for a draft before the meeting. No, 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 no. No draft before the meeting. That's a big no-no. No draft. But you can be provided the evaluation results, okay? But not a draft IEP. Okay? So if that's what you meant, you're right. A draft of the evaluation results, but you should be provided your own copy of the evaluation results, okay? Not the one that you give back. Um, so 2 days is what they have to do, but ask them to be kind and give it to you in advance. And I'd say, I'll sit and look at it in the meeting, and then you guys are going to have to wait on me to read it all. That'd be fun. That'd be a waste of your time and mine. And I've done it before. They've been jerks and they sent it to me last minute. I took every last minute I needed to read those results. That's for sure. But I'm big on I leave the meeting with it. I don't make any decisions. So like we'll make a decision on, and this is okay too, is in my IEP meetings, okay, you have your yearly and then you have your two quarterly, or hopefully you do. And so me, how I do it is they'll provide me with the goals in advance. Sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're jerks, and either way, it doesn't matter. So I go to the IEP meeting, we all talk, I go through the goals and ask questions and what I need to do. And we talk about any concerns or anything else we need to discuss. And then I take the goals home and I go through them, make sure they're smart, make sure they're organized, make sure they're time limited, make sure they're realistic, etc. And I look at where her ability is and should she have more time on this? Should she have less? Is it something she'll struggle with? And if she does, what needs to happen so that she's not struggling as much? Is there accommodation that would help her? I really go through goals and I take them very seriously. So goals aren't something that I can have for a week and bam, they're done. I sign it. Nope. I usually will hold on to those goals for a little bit to make sure that what I'm putting into that IEP is really what I want them to be, the goals, okay? Because this is how your child progresses. So you got to take that seriously. Don't just take, them saying, something non-specific, not realistic, and not especially measurable and time limited, okay? All right. So, yeah, it has to be a draft for eligibility. I would say 2 days ahead of time, but email them and say, hey, it's 29th. I'd ask for it now. I would say, hey, would you mind sending me a copy of the evaluation? I'd greatly appreciate it because if I'm given it at the meeting, then I'm going to have to go over it then. And I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste mine. So I'd greatly appreciate it if you would send it to me in advance. All right. What are you saying? What a shame to, Martha? Okay. So hi, Beth. How are you? Um, how to request an IEP, but how do I get it approved? Well, what are you trying to get approved? What part of the IEP? We have been denied twice despite having a medical diagnosis. Okay. And your child has autism, communication issues. All medical reports were shared with evaluating staff and still denied because he wasn't bad enough. He didn't meet qualifications. Well, what are the qualifications that they went by? Did they show you the qualifications? To what extent did he not meet the qualifications? Did they explain that to you? Did they provide you a PWN as to why they rejected the whole process and all? Did they provide you with what your options are after, like mediation and so forth? Did you go in there with an IEE? Did you compare both evaluations with the IEE? Did you tell me what you did? I mean, there's so much that goes on with that because that's the beginning stage. That's what I talk about. Um, it, you gotta have this straight, okay? So I don't know what your child's disabilities are as far as autism is concerned, but I do know that they'll deny you in a heartbeat if you're gonna fall for it. Um, so you have to understand the process. The process starts with identification, then it moves on to evaluation and IEE at the same time. Okay. That is my process because you're going to get it done a lot faster than if you just got an evaluation. Okay. Because then you have two things that they have to take into consideration and they cannot ignore one or the other. And then you're able to really dissect the accuracy of theirs and make sure it wasn't biased. And you're able to really dive into both and see what was evaluated, what's similar, what's different. And you're able to actually create a really good argument just by having both of them. So I would suggest going to a developmental pediatrician. I would suggest if there's communication issues, go get an IEE with a speech therapist. And then you're welcome to set up a 15-minute free discovery call. We can talk more and I can help you with that process. But you got to start with an IEE. You got to start with, going to a developmental pediatrician, getting the whole workup there. And you need to have something to take into them and to give yourself the the you got to have that preparation and that plan in place so that you can then go present it in the right way. Okay, it can't be, hey, my child has autism, and speech issues. Can I have an IEP? Doesn't work like that. My son is 8 and in third grade, ASD on a 504. Now waiting for results for eligibility. I want to review results prior to the meeting. Am I allowed to? Absolutely. You can have the results. You should have them already. You should not end up at that meeting not knowing what the hell you're up for. I mean, they can't just be like, "Oh, here you go. Here's the results." No, get those results. Say, do I need to come in and get them? Can you scan them to me? What needs to happen so that I can have them in my hand? Because I have a right to my child's evaluation results. When are you going to give them to me? That's what I would say. Do that. Um, they took my daughter out of reading and wouldn't give me a good reason why. Did they give you a PWN, Pam? And if they did, show it to me. I want to see it. Scan it, take a picture, and privately send it to me. I'm curious. And why wouldn't, see, I'm big on reading right now. You just heard my story. Give me a reason why on her IEP she's behind at least 2 grade levels. I've been trying to get her the reading help she needs. Okay, so have you had a private IEE reading evaluation? If you haven't, go get one. Okay. 2, go to a developmental pediatrician. Y'all are going to hear me talk about a developmental pediatrician till I'm blue in the face. All right. Let me tell you about a developmental pediatrician, a good one. Okay. They do testing, a crap ton of testing if they do it right. Okay. And so you walk out of there, and usually a week to 10 days later, you've got a huge packet of everything that they tested for and a whole write up of what's what. So then okay, go get your child evaluated for OT. Go get your child evaluated for speech. I mean, obviously, if they need speech, but you know what I'm saying. And OT is easy to dissect too. Okay, OT's spatial issues, sensory issues, mobile issues, all kinds of things. Okay, fine motor. I mean, OT is a book of things, to be quite honest. It's not just, hey, hold your pencil right, or hey, write neatly. Okay, OT is a lot. Okay, it has a lot of stuff. I can give you a whole copy of the write up that I wrote for a friend of mine in reference to OT, um, of arguing for her son. She was like, Raven, you got to help me. She's a social worker and she works for the school, but she's like, you got to help me with this OT thing. My son needs, OT. And so we took care of that for her. Thanks for the advice. I'll be sending the email out to the team as soon as videos. Awesome. Emily, hi, how are you? I don't think I've met you before. Welcome. You're awesome. I only hope I can one day, with the experience, be as good as you with IEP process. You will. You got it down, and I try to take in every little bit I can. Oh, that's sweet. I always say if I just had the money to personally hire you, I would in a heartbeat. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. Um, so yeah, Emily, I'm going to tell you this now. This is coming from me to you. Get on that wait list. You don't want to miss this. Okay? I promise. All right. What is an IEE? An individual education evaluation. So the school system, okay, I provide in my plan, I provide what you need to request, which I've talked about here. Remember that whole thing I said you need to request when you're requesting school records? It was like a freaking book. I read it to y'all. Same thing with an evaluation, okay? So if you're requesting an evaluation from the school, you don't want to just request a speech evaluation. I think it's a waste of time, okay? Ask for the whole kit and caboodle, all right? And it's a list of stuff, but at least you then have everything, nothing's missing. And if your child doesn't have an issue with that, who cares? Just get the test anyway. So when the school does their evaluation, stop it. No, sir. No, sir. You need to come here. You need to make sure that when you get an evaluation from the school, you also go get an IEE. So what that is you're getting the same type of evaluation just privately. So you want to go to a developmental pediatrician first. That is your first person you go to. And then you follow that up with, for example, a speech therapist, occupational therapist, physical therapist, whatever it is that your child needs. But that developmental pediatrician is kind of your starting point because the tests that they do, they're very in depth. And that's why you need to record and take notes because you're going to show the developmental pediatrician that thing. No, Rocco. Um, but you want to have that to then be able to, it's kind of like you got a circle and that's your son, right? I like analogies. Don't laugh at me, okay? So you have a circle, and then all the sun little lines is like speech therapy, occupational therapy, but the circle is to the developmental pediatrician. Does that make sense? I'm so stupid. I'm just trying to give you an analogy. So, like, I always say, like, there's a core, there's the hot spot, and then you have things that kind of attached to it. Okay, so the developmental pediatrician is who you start with, and then you go to OT, PT, speech, and whoever else you need to go to. But you'll get an idea from the developmental pediatrician as to where to start, because some of the testing that they do will show deficiencies in certain areas. Okay, so who can you take her to? Developmental pediatrician, start there. Okay, and then obviously, if your child has speech issues, go get a speech, evaluation. If they have issues with, fine motor, sensory, all that kind of thing, then OT. All right. If you have any questions, ask. Okay. No question is this is what I used to teach my kids. No question is a stupid question. What's stupid is not asking the question at all. Okay. So ask, and ask. And if you're going to go through this process and you're going to learn my system, you better get real good at asking questions. I'm going to teach you all the questions, but you got to answer them and you got to do the work. And if you do the work, then you'll get it done. You'll be able to fly through what I'm going to teach you. But you got to do the work. It's kind of like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? All right. My son receives OT with school and outside OT. That's awesome. Um, If we suspect dyslexia or dysgraphia or both, you can go to a specialist who specializes in dyslexia. There's actually a lot of specialists who that's kind of their focus. Or you can go to a developmental pediatrician and get an evaluation there, and they actually can point you to somebody who can better help you with that specific disability. So I always say start with a developmental pediatrician because usually they have good insight and then they can throw you to somebody who also has good insight in a specific disability. It's kind of like you go to a pediatrician, all right? A pediatrician is just like a general practitioner, all right? They know a little bit about a lot. Make sense? But then a general practitioner or a pediatrician can then send you to a specific specialist in a certain area that they specialize in. So you go to that general person who specializes in something and a little bit of a lot, and then they send you to the big dogs. Okay. So, but when you're starting off with a developmental pediatrician, it's different because they have a specific specialty in our children. Okay. In all disabilities. That is their specialty in diagnosing so many disabilities. And if you think about it, especially if it's autism, ADHD, and some of the ones that are, do you know autism is more, well, I say popular than heart disease now? The numbers are way past heart disease now, where heart disease used to be the number one, what was it, the number one killer or whatever before cancer. Well, the numbers of autism surpass heart disease now. It's insane, really. Um, and ADHD is pretty close too. All right. Developmental pediatrician, name of them, please. Well, I'm not in your area. So, I mean, are you in Virginia? So you got to find what I would suggest is go to ask your pediatrician, hey, do you have a recommendation? If not, just Google um, someone in your area or ask like a parent group that or parents in your area and they can usually parents talk, you know how it is. They'll tell you different places to go to or, oh, I love this doctor. It's kind of like when you're pregnant, everybody's got an opinion. Ask parents, they'll gladly tell you where to go. But if unless you're in Virginia, me telling you a developmental pediatrician wouldn't help you. You know what I mean? You have to go to somebody specific to your area. All right, Pam. So just look up good. I mean, I know my pediatrician, she gives a list. So she has a list of specialists, and I just started there. But I found an amazing down in Norfolk. I'm in Northern Virginia, but down in Norfolk is my developmental pediatrician, and it's worth the drive because she's great, and she was amazing. So you are welcome, Pam. You are very welcome. All right, guys, have a good night. I will see you guys. Well, I'll see my group tomorrow for the question and answer session, and then I'll see you guys on Thursday if you're not on the group. So, all right. So Joanne says, how often should you seek developmental pediatrician? Oh, you could I request evaluations every year from the school system. My initial evaluation was a developmental pediatrician. I honestly haven't been back, haven't needed to. But if you're working against the devil, um, go every year just like you would request a evaluation. So evaluations by law have to be done every 3 years. So I always ask for an evaluation every year. Kids change so much within a year that there's no way I'm waiting 3 years. No way. So ask for one every year because you can ask for an evaluation at any time. And as long as it's reasonable, which a year is reasonable, think about how much children change in a year, easily provable. So every year is what I suggest to have a full, conclusive, individual evaluation and make sure you put everything in writing of everything that you want in that evaluation because that's going to help you so much. I can't even tell you how much an evaluation is going to support you. So get that evaluation from the school, get the IEE, and it's going to benefit you. I promise. Okay, that's like the beginning of where I start my plan. Okay, after the identification process, it is solely evaluation and IEE eligibility meeting. Okay. All right. My daughter's current IEP. This is Angela. Welcome. You are new, so hello. My daughter's current IEP states that she needs continuous supervision to ensure her safety. Awesome. My daughter has that too. Um, even though she's not really that unsafe anymore, but I totally feel you because back in the day she did, and easily you can get a one-on-one. My new draft IEP states she now goes to lunch and recess without a paraprofessional support and has been successful and safe. They never told us she was unsupervised and did this on their own. File a complaint? No, because it's only a draft IEP. You didn't sign it, right? So you come back because I'm assuming you have in writing that she has a one-on-one or a paraprofessional, same thing, for safety. And if she has that and you have that in writing already that she has a paraprofessional for safety, here's your argument. Okay. So you can't take that away because you never know when a child will do something unsafe. Okay. So that whole big question mark is your argument because what school, and this is what I would say, okay, I would say, wow, you really want to take on the responsibility of the documentation you already have that you provide my child with a paraprofessional, say a one on one based off of safety, but you're willing because you've had lucky lunchroom success that you're going to take the chance that my child could get hurt and be unsafe. So you can prove to me that my child is going to be 100% safe. You want to take on that responsibility? That's how I would approach it. Start with that question and then build from there. Um, but yeah, no, I wouldn't take chances with safety. Don't sign the IEP, get back into the IEP meeting and argue that because they can't take a paraprofessional away if it's based off safety. All right. Because there's no concrete proof that all of a sudden that child's not going to do something unsafe. Does that make sense? So, unless there's documentation where there's been a year where your child is no longer doing anything unsafe, there's been documentation, and you in your gut know that, okay, they've grown up a little bit and they're not doing things unsafe, or the behavior has, they've had a FBA and a BIP and the behavior's going in a positive direction. Okay, I feel good about her or him going to lunch, you know, by themselves, which is good. That's kind of phasing out the paraprofessional, which is part of growing up, which is part of growth and education, which is a good thing. But I would sure as heck want a crap ton of documentation, especially about safety. You do not want to take that chance. All right. So no to the complaint because you already have an argument. You're not going to need to make the state complaint because they haven't done anything non-compliant, and I don't think they've stopped giving the one-on-one yet, right? So here's the problem. Here's the problem is you haven't signed the draft IEP, which means that in the old IEP is okay. So now I see where your complaint thing is. So in the old IEP, it says a paraprofessional is supposed to go with them. So they didn't implement the IEP. Am I correct? Is that what I didn't get right away, Angela? So they're non-compliant because you didn't sign that draft yet. So they made a choice to possibly cause harm to your child. Luckily, that didn't happen. But what if it did? That's how I think. I've worked with kids so long that, safety just kind of comes, you know, probably to many of you guys too, it just comes kind of naturally. We like see a problem and a safety issue before it happens. So like for me, if which I do, my daughter has a one-on-one based off of safety, transition, and behavior. So my issue with that is what if something happened in the lunchroom that set your child off or caused some sort of harm emotionally or physically, and no paraprofessional was there, nobody was there to to help, and the school system chose on their own to be non-compliant with the current IEP that does not state what this draft says. So yeah, I would make a state complaint based off the fact that they did not implement the IEP as it is read, and as it states that one-on-one be provided based off the fact of safety. So I would state that the school system put your child in danger by taking it upon themselves to not implement the IEP as it is read, and chose to let your child go to the cafeteria with no one-on-one. I hope you have documentation that they've been doing that. And yeah, I sure would. I would make that complaint. And then I wouldn't sign the IEP, the draft, and they're going to come back and most likely not make you sign it either because you made the state complaint. So go, girl. All right. Can the school add a specialist to child's team without parent notification? No, they cannot. Like a reading specialist. No, but I wouldn't argue that. um, so no, they can't make decisions without your permission. No. Um, But like I've told you guys before, there's that stickiness of schools can actually put into play the IEP, the draft IEPs within a 10-day period if you don't agree or sign it. But the stupid thing about that, like I told you guys last week, is a lot of schools will just go by the old IEP because it's a waste of their time to put forth the new IEP, because the first day that it goes into effect, you can say, I refuse it. And then it's gone anyway. It's such a stupid process. But yeah. So, but no, the school system can't just provide something that a parent hasn't approved. Just like a school system cannot do an evaluation, any type of evaluation, without your written consent. All right, guys, it's 10:30. All right. So I'm going to let you go. If you haven't joined the group, hop over there. I do a question and answer tomorrow night. And then I will come live on Thursday with content. Okay. It was good to meet all you newbies. Thank you so much. Definitely be on the next couple weeks. I have so much planned between now and February 16th. Okay. So stick with me, share anything on my page, share the videos, whatever you want. I'm actually going to be doing a giveaway for whoever shares the most. um, and I am excited because I have a lot coming up. I think you guys are going to be super excited. I sure am. And so join the group, grab the checklist, and get on the waiting list. Go to autismmama.rocks.iep.com, click and I'll post it below, but click the education vault and get on that waiting list. It will be something you don't want to miss. Okay. It will be something you can take with you moving forward. Okay. And then you get a free gift, and I have a huge announcement at the end. So just plan on being with me on February 6th at 8 o'clock. Put it in your calendars now. February 6th, 8 p.m. Get on that waiting list. It's filling up, and you'll get in. Oh, this is how it's going to work. You're going to get an email in a couple days. Okay. If you get on the waiting list now, you'll get an email in a couple days with a link that's going to take you to the master class that I'm getting ready to do live. Okay. It's going to be nerve wracking for me, but I go live all the time. But I mean, we have a lot of people that are going to be in this group. Like, it's pretty full. So I'm really excited. I'm really nervous. And so I'm presenting a hot topic, and I think you guys will love it. And I've put a lot of work into it, but the biggest thing is the announcement at the end. Okay. You're not going to want to miss this because you only get a period of time in which to take some action on something that I'm going to present to you. And it's not something that you can't do, it's something that you can do. Okay. So just trust me. All right. So I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good night. And I'm going to go listen to my Audible. I'm so addicted to Audible, y'all. And it's like my only peace at 10 something at night. Do you guys have that where you just kind of veg out? I've been working hard on this big announcement, and I'm excited. So, but I've been exhausted. So, all right, guys. Hi, how are you? You're new. Again, thank you so much for sharing and all you do. Oh, you are so welcome. I appreciate it. And Angela, make that state complaint. I want to see it. Send me a copy. All right, guys. I will talk to you soon. Have a good night.